Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for having me. And I'd like to acknowledge the divine presence with us, the divine spirit in the room and the divine spirit in each and every one of you. When I think about conscious, I always wrestle with what is inside of us, inside of every living being that is inherently there to gauge what is morally right and wrong, something that's embedded within us, that we don't learn or that's not instilled in us later on in life. And that's a very, very hard thing to find or to figure out. And I'm going to start with telling a story of something that's very personal to me. This last year's been very hard, health-wise, and of course, the end of the pandemic or pseudo end, the war in Ukraine. But I have two golden retrievers, 16 years old. The older one I recently had to put down about a month ago. And these two doggies have been together since they were born. And these doggies, you normally have your children until you're 18 years old. So imagine having these golden retrievers 16 years. And these golden retrievers have been more loyal than both my ex-husbands, all four of my grown children. They don't care if I'm broke. They don't care if I have been yelled at by someone. They don't care if I'm not feeling well. If I forget to feed them, they won't yell at me. They don't ask me for money. I could accidentally lock them in a car and they'll still be happy, or lock them in a closet, they'll wag their tail. They won't complain. They don't judge me. But I noticed that when I had to put down Raider, his spouse, if you'll say, Cookie, of 15 and a half years, actually. They've been together. They've had 22 puppies. They get the honeymoon suite when I take them to the kennel for, vacation. But Cookie, she walked up to her husband after he passed. She kissed his nose and 2 tears rolled down her cheeks. And for the following 2 weeks, she wouldn't eat. She wouldn't sit on their bed. She was looking for him outside where we laid him to rest by the St. Francis statue. You got to do it properly. She walked around. She wouldn't sit there, but she stared. And I was wondering, wow, these animals are so pure. And the day before we had to put down Raider, I called my uncle, an imam, and I had wrestled with this for probably about 4 or 5 months. And I asked him, I said, how do I do the burial? Should I do like a washing? We call it a wudu, to get ready for the burial. He gave me a prayer and I said, I want to make sure I do this right. We buried him in a shroud. And I said, so how do we do the ablution? And he said, oh, my dear. He said, you can do one if you like, if it makes you feel better. But he said, animals, they don't need to purify themselves. They are above sin. He said, humans are the ones that have free will and choose to sin. But animals will, he goes, I have a hunch they'll ascend into heaven. He goes, only God knows. But if it makes you feel better, you can. He said, I would worry about ourselves because we are more likely to sin. And he said, make sure that you don't sin, that you make sure that you don't sin. And if you get to heaven, you can ask for whatever you want. And I remember reading a book as a child that Prophet Muhammad said, a sin is anything that troubles the heart. And the Quran and all holy scriptures are roadmaps to justice. And justice is balancing a scale. And embedded within us is a way that we balance what is right and wrong. And that scale is our conscience. And that conscience is what inherently tells us what is right and wrong. But through time, we end up leaning towards things that we acquire, the ego, money, the quest for fame, the quest for natural resources, the quest for more and more and more competitiveness, the quest to hurt others, not in self-defense, but to be malicious. And those are never any of the signs that I ever saw exhibited in my 2 puppies. And if only people would remember to go back and check the internal embedded scale that God has implanted within us, which is our conscience, I think the world would be a lot better. And that comes from reflection, from meditation, from prayer, which almost every tradition has built in within us that we tend to forget all the time. And I'm looking at my dear Father McQueenie, and I'm so thankful for his, doing the rosaries on Facebook. And I love doing the 5 mysteries, and that's a wonderful way of going back inside to the scale within us and reaching in and just remembering that it's there. And I would like to end today with a prayer that says, "Oh God, please give my soul piety. Please give my conscience purity. For you are the master of my soul. And dear God, you are the guardian of my conscience." Peace and blessings be with all of you.